kind of introduced me. My name is Tristan Hancock. I'm new to the unit, but happy to be here with y'all. So she just went over budgeting. So one of the things that you're going to budget for if you're looking to make your money work for you is your investments. So can anybody tell me what an investment is?
So basically putting money into something in hopes that that will grow over the years.
Okay, so what's a couple examples of investments?
Mutual funds.
Mutual funds.
Stocks.
Stocks.
Property.
Property. Alright, so those are all good investments. They're going to work for you, make your money, as long as you invest them correctly. So that's something we're going to go over in this slide. So first we're going to start with what we're going to go over. How investments make you money, savings account, stocks, bonds, retirement, and life insurance. So investments that make you money. So time value of money is the big overall concept here. Time value of money is the decrease or increase of value of your money. So if you put X amount of dollars into whatever investment you do, how much it's going to be worth in the future, whether or not it's a winning or a losing investment. So that is what the time value of money is. So a few ways that time value of money comes up is one thing called simple interest. This is just interest you earn only on your initial investment. So if you put $10 in, you're only earning your interest on your initial amount. Whereas there's also compounded interest. So your compounded interest is the interest earned on the physical and unpaid interest. So therefore, if you earn interest on your original investment, then you have this amount of money, and then you earn more money on that. So as your money increases, you're earning more money because the interest keeps increasing. So a compound interest example would be if you put $1,000 into an account that you're earning interest on, and its interest rate is 10%, and you leave it in there for 5 years, your final payment would be $1,610.51. So for any of you that like to do math, if you just do 10% times 5 years on $1,000, that doesn't come out correct, right? So the reason is because of compound interest. So the first year you're going to earn interest on $1,100, and then after that you're going to earn interest on $1,200 something. So you're just compounding your interest over the 5 years, which is why a lot of times you want to look for compound interest so you can earn more money. So savings account. Believe it or not, savings account are an investment. By having that savings account, you are earning money on top of your money by leaving it in there. The reason is because banks make money by doing loans for interest in clients' companies. So you go to the bank and you give them $5,000 to put into your savings account. Do you think your physical bills that you give them are going to be directly put into a box that says Fish X that has your money, right? No, that's not what happens. What happens is they take your money, they put it into a general pool of their money, and they say, all right, we're going to use his money to work for us. So they're going to take your $5,000 and they're going to give it to someone that wants to buy a motorcycle. So they're going to go, they're going to give it to them, they're going to collect interest from them, and they get a higher interest rate on that loan. And then they will pay you for allowing them to use your money, but at a lower interest rate. So to them, they get money because they're getting all the interest back, and you're getting money because they're paying you, right? So everybody understand that concept? Checking accounts, however, don't gain interest. So if you put your money, a lot of you guys have probably a checking and savings account, right? So when you have your money, it's on the same account, but there's two different actual bank profiles. There's your savings and checking. A lot of you guys probably don't really pay attention to that, where it's at, right? Because it's just like fluid income. Well, if you actually put that money into a savings account and don't spend it for a while, you're going to see it grow. Whereas if you keep it in your checking account, you won't. It'll stay the same. So on average, savings account can earn up to 2% interest, and it depends on your bank. Some banks are savings account reliant, so they want you to put a lot of money into your savings account. So that would be companies like Capital One and American Express. They give you 1.6 and 1.55% back on your savings account. So that's pretty significant when it comes to, you put a few $1,000s into it. Now you're earning more money than if you had, say, $10 in your savings account, right? But then there's other banks like Bank of America and Wells Fargo, and they don't offer as much on your savings account. So with them, you might leave it in there for 100 years, but only gain $10, $15, right? And that just depends on the bank's model. If they're more loan heavy, or if they're more savings account heavy, it depends on their interest rates. So you might want to look into whatever bank you do have and see if you're putting your money in the correct place. If not, you can always open a savings account in a different bank and then have your checking account somewhere else, if that's more comfortable for you. So you might say, well, I don't want to put all my money into a bank because what happens if the bank fails and I don't get any of my money back? Well, the FDIC was created after the bank crash, and what this says is as long as you have $250,000 or less in your bank account, and that means you can have $250,000 in your checking account, and then another $250,000 in your savings account, and then another $250,000 in a different bank. As long as you have not over that amount in each of your bank accounts, the government insures it. So if your bank, say you have a Wells Fargo account, right, and you have $249,000 in there, and Wells Fargo is gone. They pack up and leave. Is your money gone? No. You're insured by the FDIC, and you'll get your money back. So why is this important? Because you can feel safe in putting your money into a savings and checking account, and it ensures that you can have confidence in your bank. So probably the more well-known investment is stocks and bonds. So when you think of investment, you think of Wall Street, I have it down there, you think of the stock exchange, things like that, right? Pretty safe to assume. So what are stocks? Stocks are just generally buying into a company and becoming a partial owner. The more stock you have in one company, the more influence you have on that company, and the more power you have in that company. So, I own a few stocks, but it's nothing like huge. So I have very little influence, but I own part of the company. But if you own 50% of the shares on a company, you have pretty significant power, right? Those are usually chairmen or actual founders of the company that own about 50% or more. So buying a stock, this is totally dependent upon the performance of the company. If the company does really well, your stock goes up, you make more money. The reason is because that company is worth more, so your small portion of that company is also worth more. If it's split up into 10 and the company's worth $10, each stock is worth $1. But if all of a sudden the company does really well and it goes up to $20, your stock that you bought for $1 is now worth $2, and now you have doubled your money, right? So bonds, however, are a different thing. Bonds are when a city or a form of government is trying to do like a project. So say College Station needs more roads. Every single road in College Station needs to be replaced. The city government of College Station might ask to issue bonds. So they might be like, all right, we're going to sell bonds at an interest rate, and we're going to get money from the general public. So what does this mean for you as the investor? You can go and buy these bonds, and what happens is you give them your money, and they say, we will have a rate of return on 10 years. So it's basically a lend-lease program. You give them your money now so that they can build the roads they need right now, and then 10 years from now, you'll get more money than you gave to the government. So you're allowing, and it's safe. So you're getting your interest rate because you allowed the government to utilize your money to build the roads. Mutual funds are when you give your money to a stockbroker or a company that will manage your stocks, and you can kind of direct them in what you want to do. So you could say, look, I don't really know a whole lot about stocks. I want to invest my money in the military, or I want to invest my money in healthcare, or I want to invest my money in the Silicon Valley, or XYZ, whatever you're looking at. And those who know a little bit more, the brokers, will then take your money and push it in the direction you want by diversifying your portfolio in that field. You can also tell them, I'd like to run a really risky profile, or I'd like to run a really safe profile. And that depends on what you want to do. But they will direct it, and they'll give you updates about how much you're making. The kind of bad thing about these is a lot of times they take a commission. So if they make you a lot of money, you're going to lose a little bit of money because they're going to take some of that. So that's something to look into. If you do look into mutual funds, you're going to have to look into how much they're going to take from your profits. If you feel like you can do it better on your own, and then you don't have to get it cut off, do that. So believe it or not, your own retirement is an investment. It's an investment on your life. So, bless you. So, a lot of people when they think about IRAs, 401ks, you know kind of what it is. You know it's saving money for the future, but do any of you really know what it is? Like, do you feel really confident that you can give a whole seminar on it? Okay, good for you. So, a lot of people though, general public here, 1 out of 10, right? Know what an IRA or 401k is. So, that's why I'm here to teach you. So, an IRA is when you consolidate all your 401ks into lump retirement funds. So, a 401k is essentially a investment on your insurance. You can start 401ks at almost any company you will work for. So, you go and you can allocate your own funds, you can allocate part of your paycheck, and you put it into this account. And it earns interest on the account depending on the company you're investing with. But an IRA would be for, all right, I am now leaving this company either because you've retired from them or you are just moving jobs, and I have this 401k with this company. So what do you do with that 401k? You can either leave it, and that's very perfectly fine, but it's not going to grow anymore, or you can invest it into an IRA, which is essentially just a collection of 401ks. So you take this 401k you have at your last company, and you put it into your IRA. And then when you retire or leave the next company, you also put that one in there. And what it does is it collects them together while you can keep earning interest on them. So there's 2 kinds. So a Roth IRA is tax-free on the backside as long as you don't pull out money. So when you put in money into a Roth IRA, the money is going to be taxed. But then when you pull it out, when you are 59.5, or most people it's 60, when you're 60 years old, you get out all your money without any taxes, and it's just your money. Then the traditional IRA are not tax-free at the end, but you don't get taxed each time. So if you put $10 into your account, you are putting a full $10 into your account. You're not going to be taxed on it, and that's what grows on the end. But then, when you're 60 years old and you pull it out, you are going to be taxed on the lump sum. So that depends on your personal view of how you think the tax rates are going to go. It could be very, very high taxes when you're 60, or it could be very, very low. No one knows because that's how politics work, right? So just to clarify though, you can have a Roth and a traditional IRA. Just because you have one doesn't mean you can't have the other. Also, if you have a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA, or just one or the other, you can transition them into the other one. It's a fairly lengthy process, so it's not like you can be like 60 years old and you're saying, I want to pull out all my retirement next month, and then you can transition it because the tax rates are low. This is a process that you'd have to go through to transition your funds, but it is possible to transition them. So life insurance. Life insurance is something a lot of people don't really like to talk about, and the reason is because a lot of people don't like to face their own death. So life insurance is kind of the bummer investment. It is an investment though. It's an investment to the future, it's an investment upon your death, and it's what's going to either set up your family or potentially create a financial burden for them in the future. So one thing to cover, especially with y'all, is SGLI. SGLI is a policy that you can get up to $400,000 from the military. This covers anything that would happen during wartime if you pass away. So if, unfortunate reality, if you go to Iraq and you are KIA, that's when the SGLI would kick in. And it can be anywhere from $100,000 to $400,000. The $100,000 is the minimum that you get. You can also opt out of SGLI, but unless you are a ordnance reserve person that you're never ever going to go to war in your whole entire life, it would probably be a good time to go to SGLI. So term life insurance is life insurance that's set for a period of time. So if you were to go to an insurance company right now and say, I want a term insurance policy, you're going to have a set date that it's going to expire. So if it expires when you are 60, depending on when that is, you will start put money into it right now. You would invest in your policy. And if it's a $100,000 policy and you die before you're 60, you gain that full $100,000. Now, however, if you turn 60 and you're still alive and you haven't croaked, your policy goes away. The The reason is because they can do lower interest rates on these policies. It's not significantly lower, but it is lower. And the reason is because a lot of times these policies go unclaimed. People don't die when they assume potentially their death could be, and then the policies go unclaimed. And once a term life insurance policy is over, it is over. But like I said, it could potentially put a less burden on you. And then there's permanent life insurance. Again, that is a life insurance that you will collect when you're dead, obviously, and it has no time frame for out of it. A lot of times they're slightly larger interest rates, but it will never go away. You could think you're going to die at 80, but you don't die till you're 130, and your life insurance policy, as long as it's a permanent one, will still be there. It will not go away. So getting a policy is based on goals, is the needs approach. So basically if you're saying, all right, I want to get a huge policy because I want my kids to buy a Ferrari, I want to be buried in a gold casket, and I want to be buried next to the White House, right? That's going to cost a lot of money. So you're going to need a huge life insurance policy, and you're going to pay a lot of money into that life insurance policy. But if those are things that you want, and those are goals you actually have for after your death, then that is something you can do. You can draw out life insurance policies. Just so you know, a life insurance policy is non-taxable. So once it comes out and whoever is your beneficiary has the money, it will be non-taxable. So here's a quick video. It's about 2 minutes on just like investing 101. So he kind of describes just a few ways that you can start investing and just some good ideas. This is an ad.
Let's talk about investing for beginners, investing 101, okay? So this is kind of general principles that you would use to invest in anything, whatever you want to put your money into. So the first thing to understand is, what is investing, right? Now let me start with this. Investing is very different than gambling, because investing is about certainty, while gambling is about risk. With investing, if we do it right, we should never take a loss. Let me say that again. Investing is about certainty, which means we're certain we're going to make money. We just don't know exactly when, whereas gambling is about taking risks. Let me give you an example. I've got a student of mine who buys mink coats at flea markets. She's an investor. She understands what she's looking at when she sees a used mink coat. She knows what she can sell it for within a range on eBay, and she's very certain when she buys it that she's buying it with a big margin of safety, so she knows she's going to make money. So when she invests in that mink coat, she knows, she's certain she's going to make money when she resells it. I've got my mother-in-law on this great townhome that's in this beautiful development, and all of the townhomes are very similar to each other. And not too long ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, one of the townhomes came up for sale. There were just no buyers in the market. Nobody could get a loan, and that thing sold for something like $250,000. When everybody else had paid something like $500,000 for their townhome. That was an investment. That person could rent that townhome at the same rents that people are paying in a $500,000 townhome, and they only paid $250,000 for it. So the return on investment is going to be astonishing. So, real important is that you've got certainty when you have an investment. Not certain you're going to make money, it's a gamble. Now, the second thing about an investment that really is important is that we want to have an investment that produces cash flow. An investment is an asset that you own that produces value to you, and it should produce cash flow on a regular basis. So an investment has these two really interesting qualities. One is that you're certain you're going to make money on it someday. You don't know when, but you're certain you will. And number two, that it produces some quality of cash flow, so you don't ever really need to sell it. So, it's great hearing from you guys. Please leave me a comment below. Thanks for watching. If you want more videos like this one, just subscribe to my channel.
All right. So, are there any questions about investing or anything you've learned today?
With life insurance, if you start earlier, does it increase with how much money you put in, or is it like a side amount that you want when you die, and that's how much you pay for?
So the way life insurance works is you're going to go and say, all right, I'm looking at a life insurance policy, and the company is going to outline a few of your options, and then you're going to get your payment options. So they're going to give you how you're going to invest in that. And the way it works is you're going to pay those up to whenever you die. But say you invest in a $100,000 life insurance policy, right? And you die, unfortunately, 10 years from now. You're not going to be able to have to pay $100,000 within 10 years. You're going to pay as much as it comes to when you are dead. So, unfortunately, the answer is it depends. Now, if you invest in a $100,000 life insurance policy and you keep paying for 100 years because you live forever, you're going to end up paying more, right? So it just depends on your situation, your life, and how that works out for you. But in the end, you could come out on top of the amount that you pay.
What about CDs?
So we didn't cover CDs in this one, but we can definitely come back and cover that in a different presentation. Yeah, what's up?
In a stable stock or mutual fund, like you said, your interest rate, your returns for a savings account is like anywhere between nothing and 2%. What kind of return can you expect from a stock?
So in a positive stock environment, obviously, you all know the stock market can crash, it can fail, your stocks can go down. But in a stock environment, it depends on the stock you're investing in. So if you're investing in a big name, usually those stocks don't go up very much, believe it or not. So I personally have stocks in Nike, and those go up, up to 2% or 1%, 2% a year. I know for a fact that Nike went up 1% in the last year, and it is a significant amount because you're spending a lot of money on those big name stocks. But then there's other companies that are smaller, they're startup companies, they're just getting started, you're gonna pay $20, $30 a share, and those, if they take off, can go up significantly, 200, 300%. So it depends on the company, and it depends on the stock market health. So it is more of a risk if you take those $20 to $30 stocks, because like I said, those are usually startup companies, they're brand new, they're not sure where they're gonna go. So those are often the ones that can fail as well. Now when you think of big brands like Apple, Nike, Under Armour, are those gonna fail tomorrow? Are those gonna fail within the next 2 years? Probably not. So those are gonna go up a little slower because they've already gotten to the point where they're at, but they will still generally go up. Now companies, like if you invest in a brand new company that makes silicone wires for Apple, right? And they're not sure if they're going to get their next contract. They're just on a little contract for 6 months. Now, if they get a full-time Apple contract, their company's going to expand quite a bit, right? That means their stock is going to skyrocket. So that could go up from a $20 stock to a $200 stock. Any other questions?